Hey guys, it's Jack Punkington here, and today we're talking about my favorite amp company, Orange Amps. So as you can see, I'm holding this tiny Orange Crush 3. I have a microterror and a tiny terror behind me. It was a random set of circumstances that I got all three of these kind of in one week. I had ordered the tiny terror and found this the same day, and I bought this for $50, and I was like, well, you know, if I could use this just for a prop in a video, it'd be cool. But this actually sounds really good, and will have a video of its own. Then the microterror, someone had just posted it on my local Facebook for sale for $100 with a little 8-inch orange cap. So it all just kind of came to pass. So we are checking out the tiny terror today with this lovely Gibson SG. No pedals on right now. It's set on the 15-watt mode, and I kind of have the gain set at about noon, and the shape, which is essentially your EQ, just a little bit past, and you get that kind of like crunchy, like punchy sound. Now, this amp has inspired many things like its little brother. This amp is, I believe, what is considered the first successful lunchbox amp. And because this spawned so many amps, because of this, there was obviously the microterror, the dark terror, the dual terror, the OR15, the dark microterror, the rocket terror, the Brett Hines terror, and you could arguably say, because of this amp, we have stuff like the 6505MH, the Marshall DSL15, the Marshall DSL20. All of those mini amps arguably were inspired by this beautiful piece of orange technology. So in my circle of friends, I am the person that likes the sound of British amplifiers. Obviously, by my amp selection here. Yes, that is a PV, but yes, it is a PV Butcher, which is based off of a Marshall GCM 800. I just can't afford an 800. Anyway, so a lot of my friends are more of the American sound. My buddy Chris, who me and him are working on music together, he actually runs a Fender EVH 5153 LBX, and I run the Tiny Terror. It's interesting because they're two very different sounds, but when you put them together, it kind of blends, and it's like one thing fills a hole the other thing doesn't have. So it's really cool to see that sound. I know I said see that sound, but if you have them together, you will understand what I mean. So if you want more of a cleaner sound, you gotta turn the gain down and the volume up. Now, one thing about this amp is you still need the gain kind of high up. Like, I can't roll the gain almost all the way down, max out the volume, and get a nice loud clean sound. It doesn't happen. But what I can do is put the volume about 3/4 of the way up and the gain about 1/4 of the way up, or 1/3 of the way up, and get that clean sound. I can only apologize. I just realized that I accidentally had my chorus pedal on. So, really with this amp, you don't want to do is have it clean and then like, oh, I need to stromp on a gain. By that is, I'll come back over and change this to what I want. You can't do that really mid-song. So what you do is you use pedals. So you put a big buff over top of it. That type of sound, and even more so, tighten it up and overdrive on top. But say you don't want to do that. Say you want to use the gain on the amp. Well, you got a pretty good selection of gain sounds here with just one knob. I actually really like the sound of the Tiny Terror's gain. It's very fat. And you get that one shape knob. Now you never can really quite, if you want to go for that scooped metal sound, you can't really go that with this. If you really... structured, it doesn't allow you to get to that sound. That's the closest you can really get, because if you move the tone knob the other way, you really don't get any sort of like, you just get almonds. So I actually like to keep it, if I want to go for a nice higher gain sound, just a little bit over half. This gain's actually a little bit higher than I like. Just a little bit before 3/4 of the way up. Then if I want that a little extra push, I'll add the overdrive on it. So you get that nice gain sound without having to really just dime the gain. And say I want a cleaner sound, but I don't want to mess with the amp. Just roll back on the volume on the guitar. Now, it's not perfect. There's still a little bit of a bite in there, but, I mean, come on. You can really just dial it back and then just come in with everything else. It's nice to have a 2 pickup setup on your guitar. Or you can always just go and then do that, but you know. So on this amp is it has its half power mode, which makes it 7 watts. Which is really nice if you want to, like, not piss off your neighbors. Might still want to have, you know, the juiciness of the tubes kind of pushed. I'm trying to learn a little bit of some classic metal, but you can really still get that good sound out of it. Without having to push the volume. A big issue with British amps is that you have to dime the volume to get the gain, but you really don't. If I want more, overdrive pedal. All different tones out of this amp. And what I mean by that is there's a reason why I didn't buy a dark terror. There's a reason why I didn't buy a dual terror and I went with the tiny terror. I wanted that sound. I didn't want the higher gain version. I didn't want the louder version. I wanted that sound. Because I knew if I wanted to add gain, all I needed was pedal that I already have. I don't need to add volume because I have enough. You don't need a 100-watt amp head. This will get me enough that if I were to start playing shows, I'd be fine. Besides, they're going to mic it up anyway at a venue or in a bar. And if they didn't have mics, they wouldn't need to, because it's loud enough. So the big concern with this amp is it doesn't have a effects loop. I don't use effects loops ever. I've never once really used one. I don't think. I might have once. And that doesn't concern me. This amp is the perfect tool for me. And it might not be for you. There's plenty of other amps in the Orange catalog. The other big thing is it's inexpensive. You look at a 6505 MH and they're about $400 used. This is $350 used. I mean, I think I got it for $275 because I had been waiting a little bit while and keeping my eye on it. So you can see that. I mean, I've seen them as cheap as $250, which I mean, you're not gonna get like if you want to go for another British amp company that you're gonna be looking at you're looking at like a Vox AC15, which you're not gonna really see those at those prices. And then a Marshall DSL-15 or DSL-20 is your next best bet, which you're probably paying about $100 extra. So, I don't know. My opinion, and I've owned a 6505 MH. I've owned a PV Valve King MH. I've owned a DSL-15. I've owned a DSL-20. Out of all the lunchbox amps I've ever owned, these are my favorite. The microterror and the tiny terror. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Got more coming soon. This is the first video recorded with my new camera setup and my new mic setup. Hopefully it sounds and looks a lot better. Anyway, guys, Jack Punkington signing out. Peace.